Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a pretty fascinating look at the very architecture of Canadian law. If you've ever wondered exactly how a massive, complex country legally categorizes, restricts, and manages dangerous items, well, you're in the right place. We're going to examine Part 3 of Canada's Criminal Code, which covers firearms and other weapons. But don't worry, we aren't going to look at it like some dense legal textbook. Instead, I want you to think of Part 3 as an architectural blueprint. It's this meticulously designed structure that maps out exactly how the country interacts with firearms and weapons.
So that brings us to our central question for this explainer. How exactly does Canada structure its laws around firearms? It's a highly focused modular system. And like I said, we aren't getting bogged down in impenetrable legal jargon today. Instead, we're just going to walk through the actual rooms of this legal house. We'll see where the law defines what a weapon is, where it punishes the misuse of that weapon, and how it actually adapts to brand new modern threats. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our ultimate cheat sheet for navigating the vast structure of Part 3. We'll hit decoding firearms laws, use and possession offenses, trafficking, assembling, and data, borders, modifications and loss, prohibitions and enforcement power, and finally, exemptions and final rules. Let's get right to it. Section 1, Decoding Firearms Laws, the Part 3 Foundation. Because, as you know, every good blueprint needs a legend to understand its ground rules before you start building. This is where it literally all begins. Section 84, titled Interpretation. This section really grounds the entire legal framework. I mean, think about it. Before the justice system can charge someone with a weapons offense, the law actually has to dictate precisely, without a shadow of a doubt, how it interprets what a weapon or a firearm actually is. Section 84 is essentially the dictionary of Part 3. It removes the ambiguity. If it doesn't fit the definition here, the rest of the structure just doesn't apply in the same way. It's absolutely the fundamental building block. Section 2, Use and Possession Offenses, specifically Sections 85 and 88. Now that our definitions are locked in, we can scale up from the legal dictionary to everyday, street-level categories. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly the criminal code separates a person's relationship with a weapon. Under Section 88, we have possession offenses. This addresses the mere act of having a weapon when you aren't supposed to. But then it distinctively creates Section 85 for use offenses. The law recognizes a massive leap in severity between just holding a prohibited item and actually actively deploying it. This structural separation is super vital because it allows the courts to apply entirely different scales of justice depending on the immediate danger posed to the public. Section 3, Trafficking, Assembling, and Data. The blueprint is about to escalate because we're moving away from individual possession and stepping right into the realm of complex, organizational crimes. Enter Section 99, Trafficking Offenses. Here, the law's focus makes a really hard pivot. We're no longer just looking at the end user. We're targeting the whole supply chain. Section 99 is built to dismantle the illicit trade, sale, and movement of weapons. It's essentially the structural beam designed to stop the flow of firearms before they ever reach the hands of individuals on the street. And this next part brilliantly illustrates the law's evolution into the digital age. On one hand, Section 102 focuses on the assembling offense, the physical creation of a weapon from parts. But what happens if the weapon never physically existed, but the data to make it did? Well, the criminal code adapted by adding Section 102.1, the computer data offense. This targets the digital blueprints, like the files used for 3D printing firearms. It really shows us that Part 3 isn't just some static document from a bygone era. It's a living, breathing architecture that actually expands to criminalize the sharing of dangerous digital information. Section 4, Borders, Modifications, and Loss. We've talked about data and assembly, so now we're going to shift focus to international borders and the physical tampering of the weapons themselves. Check out this table, and notice how systematically the code closes loopholes here. If a weapon is crossing borders, Section 103 on export and import offenses kicks in. If someone tries to make a legal weapon more dangerous, say by altering a cartridge magazine to hold more ammunition, Section 104.1 triggers. And what if a weapon is lost, destroyed, or someone scratches off the serial number? Well, Section 105 covers those miscellaneous life cycle events. The blueprint literally leaves no stone unturned. Every physical state and location of a firearm is accounted for. Moving on to Section 5, Prohibitions and Enforcement Power. Up until now, we've covered the crimes, the actual actions people take that break the law. Now we're looking at the defensive mechanisms of the House. We're going to see how the law bites back.
So the crucial point to take away from this is that the criminal code doesn't just list bad behavior. It actually dedicates a specific escalating framework entirely to enforcement and proactively removing weapons from dangerous situations. We have Section 109 for prohibition orders, Section 117.0101 dealing with limitations on access, and Section 117.02, which gives the state power for search and seizure. Let's move to the next slide and see how this builds step by step. Step 1. A judge can issue a prohibition order under Section 109, legally barring someone from owning a weapon. Now, if that's not enough, Step 2, under 117.01101, places stringent physical limitations on access to ensure someone just can't get their hands on a firearm. And finally, in Step 3, if there's an immediate threat to public safety, Section 117.02 authorizes direct search and seizure. It's a perfectly calibrated escalation of police and judicial action. Which brings us to Section 6, Exemptions and Final Rules. We're coming to the final corner of our structural map. We've established a very strict set of rules, but every system needs authorized exceptions. So who gets a pass? Well, Section 117.07 explicitly dictates exempted persons. And the phrasing here is highly authoritative and specific. The law totally recognizes that police officers, military personnel, and certain other authorized officials obviously have to handle firearms to do their jobs. But rather than just leaving this to assumption, the code specifically carves out structured legal exemptions. It basically ensures that the people enforcing the law are safely and legally operating within it. And finally, we hit Section 117.11. These are the general provisions. You can really think of this as the final sweep of the blueprint. It's the catch-all conclusion to Part 3 that handles administrative wrap-ups, just ensuring the whole framework stands solid and legally sound. So we've seen how Part 3 of the Criminal Code operates as this meticulously structured blueprint, right? From setting basic definitions to distinguishing use versus possession, all the way to addressing digital data and search and seizure. But here's the thing. The architecture of law is never truly finished. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. If the structure of Part 3 has already evolved from the physical assembly of weapons to punishing the distribution of computer data, what entirely new categories of offenses might the criminal code need to define in the next decade? As technology changes, so too must the blueprints that keep society safe. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and remember to keep questioning the structures around you.